Hey, today we're going to do a dollar store lightsaber for your cosplay fan film. Something to do on a Sunday. Let's go. Hey, how's it going? Anthony Fro here, Crate Sci-Fi. Well, we're going to do a lightsaber from the dollar store. This is in my dollar store bin when I just grab stuff because I know I want it. Now, lately, I don't remember because I don't have the cardboard with this, but I'm pretty sure this was like one of those dollar store $4.99 deals, but still, it's a good donor piece, right? And the reason I'm taking a break from my short film prop and set builds to do this is because my short film, Starfisher, I gotta get the money to shoot it. And I mentioned to you all that I'm gonna do a prop sale, prop auction, not sure, sale auction, but I wanna sell all the props from the channel over the past 3 years to raise the money. So let's make, I keep playing with this. Let's make this cheap dollar store lightsaber look like something that could be in the fan films, like my film, or cosplay, or just sort of, you know, something to do, put it on your shelf, whatever. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this. So let's get into it.
All right, on the bench, and it's an Obi-Wan lightsaber for $5 made in China, almost a decade ago. So it's cool because it's just hints of, oh, that came out easily. I was preparing myself to deal with that, and it just popped out. It's basically Obi-Wan's flashlight. It has some, you know, like the pommel and stuff have hints of it, but for my purposes, that's excellent that it's not really looking like his saber, because, you know, like I said, this is like a cosplay, like I think a Sith character in my mind. So now I just want to add some weight to it since it's cheap plastic. To do that, I just have like fishing weights that I'll hot glue in there. And then for the belt, I'm a big fan of the D-ring. I have, like, from the prequels, I have like the clip-on thing, but just the D-ring, I don't know. That's my jam. So I have a bunch of D-rings. I always use them for this. Little 220. Gonna sand this down. That hand grip is a decal, so I'm thinking about how to deal with that. But in the meantime, I'll get rid of these other stickers. I don't like to use chemicals. If I can file everything off, I will. Now here, I don't think you see it on camera, but there's lots of, like, you know, don't eat this, don't lick it, warning texts. So here I'm just dealing with it. And then there's some screw holes that I got to deal with. And then now all these different levels. I got my sanding sticks. If you didn't have these, you could just use like a skewer and wrap sandpaper around it. I have the nail files, ebony board, whatever you want to call them. Again, these come in useful. All the time when I go to a hobby shop, they're always at the checkout. I grab like 2, and then now I just have like a little pencil holder filled with them. So now this is a new thing I've been using, is the plastic razor blades. Like a lot of things I never used before, I use now because of Temu, right? Because it's just like, I'm in Temu, it's like I need $15 for free shipping, $4 left, and it's like, oh, plastic razor blades. I know people use them. I've seen them before. I'm like, yeah, let's get some plastic razor blades. And they actually work really good, especially for removing stickers. So here, I'm just using some water to counteract that acetone that I put on there to get rid of that decal, which was a bad move. So now I'm just dealing with the aftermath of that. It's fine because I'm going to eventually cover that with foam, but I thought the acetone would make quick work of it, and it made a mess of it, right? So you always got to be careful with this stuff. You got to, like, you know, if it's not something you're using a lot, you just got to do little test pieces. And now I'm back to 0. And I was going to, you know, sand this whole thing 220, which I will, but it looked like I was making quicker work of it, or it is the fact I was making quicker work of it just with the nail files, right? So here's this. So now I got to deal with the screw holes. I don't want to do Bondo for this because it's just a little hole. I think there's 2 of them. And it looked like the seams I was going to get rid of with sanding and probably a couple coats of paint. So this Usually I use baking soda, baby powder. I did have some arrowroot powder on hand for, I have no idea, or cornstarch. I think I use that as a release agent when I do the vacuum forming. But that works just fine. So there I'm just filling the screw hole. You put the powder in it, whatever it is, baby powder, baking soda, and then add some super glue and you get like a little filler action. Now here, by mistake, I bought like the quick wicking glue, super glue, and it's like I'm using it up because I paid for it, but it's like kind of makes more work because it's so thin and wicks, it like swoops around to the other side, and then I got to clean up the super glue mess. But whatever, I'm on the bench, I'm making a lightsaber. It's a good day. So now I'm just filling in, like there's little pinholes left. Just try to get that. But again, for what this is going to be, and because it's Star Wars Sith, I know I'm going to be weathering this up. So here I just blast it with the air to see how it's stuck, and you see little pieces of paper towel there from the wicking super glue that's everywhere. So what's interesting is, because I made a mess with the acetone and the super glue, I end up really sanding this a lot more than I typically would. So I don't know, it worked out, I guess. So now I'm going to put these weights in. And the reason I like these sinker weights is typically they'll fit right in whatever cavity is there for the AA, AAA batteries. So here, that works out nicely. So I just drop these in the AA battery slots, I think, with a little hot glue. And then that's going to be in there nice, and it's going to give a nice weight down where your hand's going to hold it. So this is working out good. And then I just overfill it with glue because, I don't know, I have a problem doing that, overbuilding, overfilling. I got to work. It's not a problem except for when I get into painting and I just want to put 1,000 coats and put them on too quickly. But I'm working on it, people. I'm working on it. So now I have this one long sinker, and I thought, all right, well, let me just drop it down the barrel of this, and that'll give some weight so it's not all in the pommel. In here, I'm just using some scrap foam I got laying around to try to make like a collar for this one last sinker so that I can push it down there. Again, just using some hot glue. Typically, when I get the hot glue out, that's because I'm in like one-day build mode, and I want to just sort of crank things out. So this, I'm purposefully not making like a clean cut of that because I want to jam it down there so it sticks. So while that's drying, so on this hand grip, I know that I'm going to use EVA foam to make like a hand grip. So the best way to do that, to make a pattern, is just with some painter's tape. Sorry, not the best framing there. So with the painter's tape, you just put it over whatever area it is that you want to cover with something cut to size. And then when you remove the tape, you'll have a stencil, right? Pretty straightforward. Very effective. And there, you know, I'm always trying to be careful when there's always a little tear or rip. And the only reason I call that stuff out is because I know a lot of you, you know, you watch these and it's edited and it's like, okay, zip, zip, zip. But it's like, it's, you know, nothing's perfect. Do the best we can. And there it is. And that's looking good. There's going to be my template. And then also I'll put this piece back on when I paint, because if I don't put paint over this, it'll just stick better. However I glue it. Probably use like E6000 or some barge. Not sure yet. But here I'm just taking my time to get that template right. And then here I have this EVA foam from the dollar store. And like I said, what I like about this is it's got the sticky back. So here I'm just using that template, and you'll see, just got out a fat marker and just boom. And then this is a custom template for that hand grip, right? Now, it's just funny to me as I watch this, but it's like that tape is from the dollar store. That fat marker, yeah, I think that's from the dollar store. So, yeah, I get a lot of stuff at the dollar store. And I think it's because you invest so much time in these builds that you want to get the supplies for as inexpensively as possible, because you are going to be putting in the hours to elevate whatever it is you're doing, right? I don't know if that makes sense. That's my story. So there is my foam core, like, that would be like the Kyber crystal, I guess. But it's down there. And again, I can't help myself. Put some glue in there because, we got to overbuild. So now in my hand, that's feeling pretty good. And I'm just making sure everything's centered up and making sure to do that off camera so it's of no use. But it's like when I do these one days, it's like you get in the zone, right? So more sanding. So what was interesting in the effort to clean this and prep it for paint and to fill the holes with super glue, I ended up doing a lot of sanding, which, it's a good thing. And I got these palm sanders. Now I'm up to 600 grit, getting ready to prep for paint. I love my palm sanders. Get those on Temu now too. I used to buy them from Amazon, but now I get them from Temu. When I do the Scotch Brite like this is just always like in my mind, like my final pass before I put down some paint, just to make sure in case I miss anything. Blast some air, get rid of any dust or debris. A little bit of isopropyl alcohol that gets rid of the fingerprints, and for some reason I don't have rubber gloves on, so I'm taking off fingerprints and adding fingerprints. All right, so now blowing with the air, and I just want to make a little stand for this. I have over the years just collected, like, I'll take scrap pieces of wood, put a dowel or something in there, and these always come in useful. This wasn't quite tall enough, so, tape a chopstick to it. What's Adam Savage's book? Every tool's a hammer. Maybe my book will be tape a chopstick to it by Anthony Farrow. So this is my Temu primer that I love. Now I'm going to hit it with a base coat of black. I have some ideas about the paint job, but I know because I'm going Sith, it's definitely going to be a black base. Probably going to tape off some details, but there's our base coat. And I wanted to do a one-day build, but I was like, all right, this is the next day, because I realized I was going to do a lot of masking, and it's better to just let the tape sit. And I think I do end up pulling off a little bit of tape anyway, but again, you've heard me say this a million times, Star Wars, it's going to be heavily weathered, so it's fine. So here, I have my Temu tapes, right? So, I talked earlier, like, painter's tape from the dollar store, stuff from the dollar store, but certain things you learn the hard way, like this Temu sort of masking tape that I get from the hobby shop. It's a little more expensive, but as I said before about the value of your time, this saves me time because I've never had a problem with this Temu tape, and it does what you want it to do, right? The blue painter tape from the dollar store, I'm masking off a big area, it's fine. But here, when I'm doing the fine detail work, then spend the money and get the good Temu tape. Make sense? Now, you could do this with the blue tape. Of course you could. But, right? Get a little older, a little wiser. I'll pick my battles. So here, and I'm kind of thinking, it's like a bumblebee lightsaber. That's not what I'm going for, but that would be pretty cool. And then there you have everything that's going to remain black, and then I'm going to hit this with a coat. And before I do that, so the clear coat, whenever you mask anything, if you just do a dust of the clear, it helps prevent the seepage. And then this is stainless steel black, which is just cool. Like if I'm going for like a cool color paint job, I typically will buy car colors, because they tend to be cooler. And you see there, I got a lot of orange peeling because I was impatient and put on too many coats. But again, because this is Star Wars, I know I'm going to be weathering it. I'm fine with that, because later I'll lean into that with my paints, and I'll probably put some burnt sand or something on there and make it look like rust and chipping, so that's fine. Now, if I was going for like a brand new, Black Series pristine saber, we would have had to sand it down and start all over again. So now I'm just demasking, seeing what I have. And for the most part, the demasking is fine. There was 2 places where it peeled up to black. But like I said, because I'm going to weathering it, I'll use those places where it peeled up to really go hard with like probably like a rust color. Well, not probably. That is what I'm going to do. So again, just these little black stripe details, they just kick it off. They give it like a little more interest, production value, as I like to say. Although for this would probably be more cosplay or display. But I don't know, in the Star Wars universe, me personally, even with my Mando stuff, I just love the idea of anything from that universe that you can make your own, right? So that's why I've never been attracted to like a Han Solo costume or a Luke costume or Anakin. I like to go like, and now with the Disney Channel series, it's more appropriate to do that. But I like to be like, oh, lightsaber, but let's make an original one. And I just find that more fun. Some of you want to make like a screen accurate one. That's cool. That's a whole other thing. But for this, now I'm going to fix that paint, and then forever after I can claim, oh no, I purposely wanted that paint to orange peel because I was going to hit it with the burnt sienna and give it like this rusted, crackly technique. But this is not a compromise in the sense where it was like, I'm fine with this. Because like I said, I looked at it and saw that happen. If it wasn't something that I was happy with, I would have just resanded it and started all over. But this is fine. And this is working out good for me. And I'm realizing that with my black steel base coat, with all the weathering I'm doing, it's going to end up kind of being like a brown color, which is fine, right? Because Sith just screaming black, I think would not be as interesting. You could get away with it, but that it would be kind of predictable, I guess, right? That's just like, this black glowing bad guy saber. Whereas I think with the black highlights and then like this brown rusted thing, that to me is more bad guy looking. So always, on my channel with the weathering, I just add like 2 or 3 colors, blot them off. Like 90% of that will be taken off, but it just sort of, it breaks it up a little, makes it a little more interesting, gives it a little more life. For people who aren't watching me make the sausage, once you see this out in the wild, you're not going to pick up that there's like a little residue of like a green there. You're not going to notice that, but there is going to be something about the saber that doesn't look like it just came out of a box from Amazon or, from a trip to Target. That's, you could disagree with me, obviously, but that's how I feel about it. So here, and again, none of this is specific. This is all just like I'm looking at it and thinking here, maybe here. And then I go back over it where, doing the layers where it's like, oh, maybe I went too hot here or too much there. And then, I don't know, if you know me, I'm going to bloody it up, right? I just feel like this guy's in battle. His hand or her hand is bleeding. They're going to get their blood on the saber. They're going to take it home. They're going to wipe it off. But there's going to be some DNA left, right? Some CSI. Then now I'm going to hit it with a clear to lock in everything that we just did. And while that's drying, I'm going to get to work on this hand grip. Now, I always love to use the EVA, thin foam for hand grips because it's like it reflects light in a way that your mind subconsciously is like, that's definitely not paint. And then it's just the easy way to add value. So here I got my wood burning tool, and I'm just, again, I talk about this a lot. So I need to make these ridges, and the popsicle stick looked about the right width, and I can use that to be consistent, right? You could take a ruler and rule it out and measure it and make sure it's all fine. But, you know, I don't know. Use the popsicle stick. It's easy. It works. It's consistent. Why overthink it, right? So there is my hand grip. And I think off camera, I did the other two just to sort of, I don't know, to try different things. But, you know, the original idea won. That's fine. E6000. Sounds like a made-up name. This stuff is the best. I was going to use barred cement, but for this, I was like, you know what? Let's just use the E6000. A costumer turned me on to this years ago. It'll stick anything to anything. And, you know, I had a costume once where the guy had foam armor. And she just glued it on with this stuff. And I was like, well, I don't, you know, I got a whole shooting day with this. Is this going to work? And she was very confident, and I trusted her. And boy, by the end of the day, that thing didn't budge. So now I use this stuff for everything. But it's really great, especially for costumes where, like, say you have a fabric jacket and you make some EVA foam, like sort of fantasy sci-fi shoulder pads. You stick it on there with some E6000, it's fine. It ain't going anywhere. So here I'm just taking some ribbon and I'm wrapping this up because it does want to like pop up. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just wrap it up, put it aside. And I don't know if I did this later in the day or the next day, but I just wanted that hand grip to conform because I feel like the hand grip would be a focal point, right? So there it is. It's all drying. Again, like I said, that was black stainless steel because my first thought was different colors of black, but it's starting to look brown, and that's fine. So now I got to mess with this D-ring. It's a little domed at the bottom, so I'm going to dome it just so it fits better. I need something. Oh, how about the book? Check out my book. There's a link in the description. My book talks about why I do all this stuff. All right, but I guess we'll use foam instead of my book. So I'm just trying to dome this a little. I think I end up abandoning this just because I don't have the right. I needed a heavier ball peen hammer. And I think what I'm going to do is just slightly flatten the bottom of the pommel. But while I'm in there, this D-ring is brand new. I got to scratch it up. A little bit of sandpaper, a little bit of filing. And then, you know, that's fine. We're good to go. Hex screws, whenever I use screws in sci-fi, it's all hex screw. Now, most of the time when I use these hex screws, they're more decorative, right? I typically don't use them for a mechanical fastener. I typically use them where they're supposed to be a screw. I'll put glue, and then I'll glue in the hex screw, just because you can buy them, you know, Harbor Freight at the hardware store, and they're more sci-fi than a Phillips head or a flathead. So there, I did a compromise. I just flattened the pommel just a little bit to accept this, and then, you know, sometimes you get gifts. That was a gift that worked out fine. So I was like, oh, okay, good. Although step back, 2 more steps back, I go to make the hole, and it just explodes when I just sanded off. I'm like, okay, fine. The D-ring will cover that, but now I'm going to get into 5-minute epoxy, and I'm going to fill that cavity with hot glue. And this is a good example of editing not really being truthful, right? So there I'm like, I got to fill that cavity. I'll fill it with hot glue. Now, on the other hand, the 5-minute epoxy is curing. So I'm like, oh, I'm running out of time. Let me put this together. Great. I'm going to stick this on there. I got that cavity on there. I'm going to put the screw. And then it's like, oh, geez, the screw's hitting something. So here you're just watching this, la, 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 la. It's music. But in the background, see that quick cut? I was like, oh, I panicked. I got my drill. My drill bit is in the garbage now because it's covered with hot glue. And there you see me just tighten it up. Easy peasy. It wasn't. It was a disaster. But it worked out. It was fine. Now we're good. We're moving on. So what I'm doing here is anywhere where I felt the weathering was too much, I use a flat black to just sort of dye it down. And then here, I just want to put some black and some gold onto that D-ring because I weathered before that D-ring. So I'm trying to make it all look like it always lived together forever. And there it is, and it does. So now I got my, like these little hair dryers. Guess where I got it? 3 guesses. First one count. Timu. All right, so now, yeah, the hand grip. Come on. With popsicle stick, perfect. And off camera, I made those buttons green. So now, instead of nicotine spray, I got this brown spray because I'm thinking, oh, brown is working for this. And this is like a very light, subtle thing. So all of that sort of gloss, stainless black, whatever it was called, is now going to have this brown sheen. And I'm liking it because the layers. Got my Temu little hand dryer. And then now I'm going to hit this with matte because those brown like nicotine sprays, movie paints, those come off with water because that's what they're meant to do. So I just want to lock that in. That's looking good. So now, because everything's flat and matted, just want to bring back just a little life to it. And these rubbing buffs I'm using are actually not silver and gold, right? They're pewter and like old gold that's supposed to be like for like old picture frames. And I think that fits sort of the vibe I'm going for with the Saber. So just little places, because everything's matte and sprayed with the brown and sprayed with the, with the flat coat of gloss, or not gloss, of satin. Just these little silver kicks on the edges. A little bit of the antique gold, that's what it's called, antique gold here and there. Nothing crazy. And again, I've talked about this. Like, I have a problem. Like, right there, that was too much. And I'm like, and if you ever use these waxes, the rubbing buff, it's easy to do too much and it's easy to screw it up. So what I've sort of built into my process over the years is, when I'm done, then I just get the flat black, because that's going to dry really flat. And I take like a torn up piece of paper towel or a sponge, if I have some sponge pieces on hand, and I just dab it a little over where I overdid it with the rubbing buff, just so that it doesn't look like another layer on top of another layer, so that it all looks unified. And yeah, I'm really happy with that. Let's put it in the white, see what it looks like with the lights on, right? And there it is. And that hand grip was always in my head to do it that way, and I was like, oh wow, I'm really happy with that. Look at that knurly back. Again, with the rust on there, it works fine. That all looks like one piece. I like the dark brown color. Like, that's not what I was going for, but I think it sells Sith, but it's not typical. Yeah, very cool.
I mean, yeah. Look at that thing. Now, I have to say, I've been past few months, maybe even 4 or 5 months, making props for my short film, Starfisher. Now, with the idea of this prop sale, I think it's going to be a prop sale, I was thinking, let me make something more representative of what that'll be. And so my point is, what's interesting to me is I've been focused on the props and sets for my short film, that when I just took a break to cleanse the palette and make something like a lightsaber, this came out, it came out really good. Like, I'm really happy with this. And it's just interesting, like, when I'm not so like, oh, I'm going to make a lightsaber, and where it's just sort of, let me just make something for fun, representative of what we'll be selling. And I'm really happy with this. Now, the one thing I did differently than I typically do with the Star Wars stuff is I was like, since I have like a Luke Skywalker style one, I was like, let's make a Sith lightsaber. So I think we made a Sith lightsaber. It looks like one, but there's really only one way to find out if it is one. All right, let's find out together. All right. Oh, it's a Sith lightsaber. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, found that useful. Again, stay tuned to the channel. I'm trying to organize the prop sale. Now it's looking like maybe my best option is to do it on eBay and then maybe offer like another platform. You know, some people want to just donate a couple bucks for special thanks in the credits or something like that. Have those options, and then I think I can do the signed books on the eBay. So stay tuned. I'm just working it all out. It's just me, but I'm working on it. And yeah, really enjoyed this build. I hope you did too. Check out the Patreon. Patreon was where I do the smaller builds and then some stuff that I don't do on the channel, like my pitch decks and some raw behind the scenes footage. I think you might check that out. So thanks to all the Patreons. And remember, I'm just here to help make sci-fi.
Hey, I'm just the avatar, but you might want to check out this video, maybe that video. For sure, subscribe if you haven't, and check out the merch. Buy some merch, that really helps. But hey, what do I know? I'm just the avatar.